I'm Jonathan Payne. I'm coming from JFF. JFF is a national nonprofit. And our goal is in general to make sure that make sure that every individual has access to economic mobility and economic advancement. And one of the major conduits for that is through education. And that means revising or improving our education systems. I want to first level set about what apprenticeships are and really about what apprenticeships aren't. And so first and foremost, apprenticeships are not internships. Apprenticeships are formal earn and learn agreements between apprentices, in this case, we're thinking about educators, and their employers, in this case, potentially school systems. They include a few central elements. First, paid on-the-job learning. Second is as you increase your skills, your wages increase as well. These tie really well to annual salary increases that are often part of collective bargaining agreements or education contracts. Quality-related classroom instruction that, again, is tied directly to that on-the-job training. All under the supervision and guidance of a mentor and resulting in an industry-recognized credential, in this case, a teaching certificate or potentially a para certificate. Really strong and passionate stance on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. And a few years back, we won a DOL grant to create a diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility hub, which we call the Inclusion Hub for DEIA. Just rolls right off the tongue, has since we started it. That DEIA hub created this framework to help drive DEIA and to help organizations consider how they built DEIA into registered apprenticeship. This framework has a lot to it, and there's way more than I can go into right now. But there are three key elements here that I want to tease out because I think they pertain specifically to educator apprenticeship and are three key elements to why educator apprenticeship is really a DEIA lever in educator training. We know is that the teaching population in general across the nation does not look like the students that they teach. And part of that is a recruitment issue. In order to become a teacher through traditional pathways, that means you have to be willing and able to take out student loans. If you're not willing to do that, or you're not able to do that, your opportunities to become a teacher are pretty limited. And ultimately, because of those limitations in access, because of those barriers to access, we end up with a teaching population that does not look like and does not share the same lived experiences as our students. And that's bad for our teachers, and that's really bad for our kids. Also know that teachers don't make a lot. That once you take out those student loans, the wage penalty that those teachers incur, especially those entry-level teachers making entry-level teaching wages, which we know aren't high, those wages seem even lower and even more difficult to live off. We also know that advancing from para, ed tech, teacher's aide, whatever they might be called in your state, to a teacher, fully certified, highly qualified classroom teacher, that ultimately that often requires them leaving the workforce, which is a barrier to access for many of those people who are already doing really good work with our young people. And that ultimately that lack of opportunity, that difficulty, that hardship in making ends meet leads to high turnover internally when we roll staff from district to district to district, from potentially rural, lower paying districts to more urban, higher paying districts. And it also pushes people out of the profession altogether. It's a 6-month internship or being a TA in college does not prepare you for all of the requirements of being a classroom teacher. That, there's anecdotally, it takes 10,000 hours to master your craft. 6 months is not that. And we also know that teachers, once they enter the classroom, really don't get a whole lot of other additional support. Yes, they'll probably get some. They'll get some professional learning groups or some PLCs, PLGs, or they'll get some professional development along the way. But it's not as intense as what an apprenticeship will provide. Ultimately, that lack of preparation really leads to burnout, and that burnout leads to teachers leaving the field, and it leads to that churn that degrades and reduces that student experience. And that's why I'm so passionate about educator apprenticeship. The college for all narrative is failing our kids. There are other opportunities and other pathways into good jobs, and that's what our students need. That's one of the things that our students need to hear, and they need to hear it from people who have the same lived experience that they do. I hope that you're as encouraged by all of this as I am. Feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. If this is something that you want to dig into, I'm happy to support as best I can.